Well, hi, this is Ken Auerbach from Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg. If you or someone you care for has been injured from no fault of their own, please contact Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg at myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. Whether auto or work-related, slip and fall, trip and fall, construction accidents, dog bite, medical malpractice, or nursing home neglect, or various other types of negligence, please contact me at Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg by visiting me at myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. I will represent you with integrity and passion. Living in pain from no fault of your own can be emotionally and physically detrimental and affect all aspects of your life. Please contact me, Ken Auerbach, at Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg by visiting myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900 for an immediate and free consultation and the support and representation you deserve. Well, hi, everyone. This is personal injury attorney Ken Auerbach from Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg. Welcome back to our program, From No Fault of Your Own. I'm here with my trusty co-host, Amanda Spinner. Of course, my great associate. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you? Everything good?
Yes, happy to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here on this rainy day.
Rainy but not snowy.
That's true. You see that?
It's very important.
That's true. The glass is half full.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, it's our goal, folks, as you know, to give you an insider's view of bringing and proceeding with various types of personal injury actions caused by the negligence of some other party. And among these areas that we will explore are car accidents, trip and slip and falls, construction accidents, medical and malpractice, nursing home neglect, products liability, and the serious injuries that often occur. And through our journey together, hopefully we have removed some of the mystery and uncertainty and helped you feel empowered, knowledgeable, and confident in the process. And we are live here today, so if you have any questions, please call into the studio right now at 631-451-1039. We'd be glad to answer any questions about personal injury. Amanda, what do they get if they call in?
You will get a free From No Fault of Your Own t-shirt.
You're right. And we just ordered a whole bunch more of them, and they should be coming in soon. But we do still have extra large sizes.
Anyone I'm sure would love to wear an extra large.
I'm telling you, it's a great sleeping shirt too if you need it.
100%. It's a great all-around t-shirt.
Right. And fortunately, Rob Steinberg designed it, so really it is looking good. So my partner, not only is a great lawyer, but he really is a great designer too. Well, Amanda, I thought today on the show what we would do is kind of go over a topic that many of our clients ask us about. We see it on TV in some of these commercials, and I think it's really not dealt with properly on there, and I think we should address it. So we've talked about this idea about settling cases and what is a case's value worth. And one of the things that we always tell our clients is right from the beginning is when they come to our office, we tell them, what about being able to evaluate your case on that first day?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not possible. And no one should be telling you the value of your case on day one because essentially you haven't fully recovered. You haven't fully treated. We don't know what your injuries really are. We don't know the extent of everything. So us valuing it on that day is really a disservice to you. And
when you evaluate something, you're going to be under an impression perhaps that, well, my case is limited to a certain value.
Right.
And it may be that your case is worth significantly more, or it may not be worth that. And so what we try to do is we try not to go through any process of evaluating a case until our clients have treated, gone through a process, we've gotten medical records. And today what we're going to do on the show is we're going to have a little bit of an exchange, Amanda and I, and Amanda's going to play the client and I'm going to play the attorney. One of the problems that you have if you evaluate a case too early is you're going to wind up in a situation where you may miss something.
Right.
And so there may be some aspect of it that you really should have waited for. You should have delayed to assess it. You should have waited for certain testing to be done so that you can properly make an estimation or evaluation of what that case is worth. So, Amanda, let's kind of use as an example. Let's do a shoulder case, okay?
Sure.
All right. So, Amanda, you're the client. You came to me. You could injure your shoulder in many ways. There are people who have trip and falls, put out their arms and hurt their shoulders. There's people who holding onto the steering wheel hurt their shoulders. I've had people who are in the passenger seats and they get thrown into the side of the car, or they get thrown and their hands go out to protect themselves and they injure themselves. And so when we have situations like that, we evaluate them and we listen to it. So the client comes into me, and if Amanda was coming into me on day one, what I would do is I'd be asking her, all right, Ms. Spinner, you were in an accident. You said that you injured your shoulder.
Yes.
Could you tell me, Ms. Spinner, what part of your shoulder is actually hurting you? Front, top, side, where is it hurting?
The top of my shoulder.
Okay. And does it feel like it's coming down from the neck, the pain, or does it actually feel like it's in the shoulder itself?
Actually in the shoulder itself.
Okay. And I know that you said you went to the hospital. Have you treated with a doctor since then?
No, I just went to the hospital and they told me, I was okay from, any tears, anything like that.
Okay. Well, at the hospital...
Fractures, I'm sorry.
Fractures, okay. So at the hospital, they took an x-ray. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so one of the things that we tell our clients too is sometimes at the hospital, or oftentimes at the hospital, they're looking at an acute injury. They're looking at something. Is there a fracture? Is there something that's going to require surgery or immediate intervention? And it's not always like that. In fact, oftentimes shoulder injuries are not like that at all,
right,
because you'll have a tear to the soft tissue. And
right,
in most hospitals, they would not be going ahead and usually doing MRIs or CAT scans. So I'm going to pick it up with Amanda as my client here today, and I'm going to ask her, well, at the hospital, do you know if they did anything other than x-rays? Did they do any type of a CAT scan or an MRI?
No, they just did x-rays.
Okay. And did they discuss with you following up with medical treatment?
They did tell me to, if my shoulder was still hurting me, to follow up with an orthopedist.
Okay. And you went to the hospital. I know this was, I think, 3.5 weeks ago. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And have you followed up with the orthopedist yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Did you make an appointment?
Yes.
Okay. And that doctor, your appointment is going to be for when? How long from now?
In a few days.
Okay. Well, it's going to be important, Ms. Spinner, when you go there to let me know what the doctor has to say after the doctor examines you. If the doctor decides that they have to do any other testing, please make sure, if there is testing, that you forward that to me, or you have the doctor forward that to me. Because the reason being is I like to keep up to date with what's going on, all right?
Right.
And the other thing that I would tell you is as you're going through this process, make sure you do what the doctor tells you to do. And so your job, Ms. Spinner, is that you have to make this part of what your job is now. Your job is to get better.
Right.
Okay? We don't want you not to get better, but if you're not going to follow the doctor's advice, then you're not giving yourself that best chance. So please make sure to follow the doctor's advice. Go ahead and do what they say. If they say that you have to get testing, get that testing. And if there is testing, please get that over to me, okay?
Okay.
So at this point in my interview with my client, I want to make sure that they're going ahead and understanding the importance of following the doctor's direction, but also understanding the reason for that. And what I like clients to know is I like to know that the process is a living process. So when Miss Spinner comes in on day one and she is indicating that she's having some pain in her shoulder, and well, I may not know at that point how serious it is.
Right.
She doesn't know how serious it is. And we have to prove a serious injury in order to make a recovery. So you can see why on day one when she came into the office, if she didn't have a fracture or severe disfigurement, she didn't die, thank God, and didn't lose a fetus. Those other categories that we've talked about previously on the show about a consequential limitation of a body system apart, 90 out of the first 180 days she couldn't do her usual and customary things. We don't have answers to that yet.
Right. So providing evaluation on that day does nothing.
It's really useless.
Right.
And, I also get a kick out of, you see some of these shows, some of the commercials, and the lawyers are saying, well, call us. We'll tell you what your case is worth. Well, how are you going to do that without having the medical in front of you?
Right.
Okay. And a lot of times clients, they don't know the details of what's in those medicals. And so sometimes what will happen is we'll need to really literally look at that and see what are on the test. What do the tests show? I've been doing this for 34 going on 35 years. Amanda's been doing it a long time too. And there is a very, very significant difference sometimes in terms of what a test will show, significantly in terms of whether or not there's something torn or not torn. Sometimes the person will come and say, well, my shoulder is broken.
Right.
And they just know broken is my shoulder isn't working right? So those are some of the things that we look at on the initial interview. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to talk a little bit more about this and try to give you as much information and so you understand what we're looking at and how we do that. So we will see you on the other side. So glad to be here with you today. So glad to be back on the show live.
We're live.
It's good to be here live. And we will talk more about evaluating a personal injury case. And how do we do that? And when do we do that? And what are the things we're looking for? And what do you need to do to make sure to do yourself a great service of getting better? So we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, this is personal injury attorney Ken Auerbach, here with my great co-host, my associate, and my sidekick, Amanda Spinner. Great to have you here today, Amanda.
Hello. Great to be here.
Oh, listen to that voice. It's so nice. We're actually not going to have Amanda on the next 2 live shows because Amanda's going to be in Mickey World, I think.
I will be for 2 whole weeks.
Wow, that's really good. You got to get us a picture.
I
of
will.
You on, I don't know, Dumbo or something like that with your ears.
Oh, yeah. We'll post it on the website.
We'd love to see that. If you're just joining us, we're exploring the most important issues in personal injuries caused by accidents. We are live today. So if you'd like to call in and ask a question about personal injury, please do that at 631-451-1039. It's 631-451-1039. You get one of our great From No Fault of Your Own t-shirts. Love to give you one of those. And if you or someone you care about has been injured as a direct result of someone else's negligence, please contact us at myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. It's myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. It really would be our privilege to evaluate your situation, fight to get you justice. And all of our consultations on personal injury cases are always free. And if you do retain us, it does not cost you anything unless we make a recovery. We'll also lay out expenses, and you don't have to pay us back those expenses either unless we make a recovery. And listen to our program, Amanda. When is that?
Every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m.
So really great to be back. When we left off on the other side, Amanda and I was sort of having an exchange. I made Amanda my client, and I was asking Amanda some questions about her injuries, about treatment that she was having. And so we're going to pick up from that and give you an idea of kind of how the exchange goes and how we evaluate these things as we get further into the case. So Amanda has already said to us that she had gone to the hospital. They took x-rays, didn't show that anything was broken, but she's having pain in her shoulder since then. And she's been told follow up with a doctor. In this case, I think she said an orthopedic. We actually have a great osteopath on the show today, and we're going to talk to Dr. Tom O'Brien in a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about his involvement in treating the very same kind of injuries. But Amanda indicated that the doctor told her, or the hospital told her, to follow up with medical treatment. She scheduled that treatment, and let's just assume, Amanda, now we're down the line someplace, and let's say we're 4 or 5 months down the line. Okay. And now we're picking up another conversation. So, Amanda, I'm just following up. I know you wanted to come into the office and sort of get an idea where your case is at and what we're doing. Could you tell me, you went and saw the orthopedic, is that correct?
Yes, I went and saw the orthopedist. They did MRIs. It did show a tear in my left shoulder. As a result, they wanted me to start going to physical therapy. So that's what I've been doing. Okay.
And so you've been going for physical therapy for over a course of time, correct?
Yes.
Right. Have you been doing what the doctor directed and following that course of treatment?
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's really important. Is the pain getting any better, or is it getting worse, or is it the same?
It's the same.
Okay. Are the things that you've been limited in doing as you're obviously experiencing this pain?
Yes. I mean, I can't really lift my arm above my head. I'm limited in working. I'm limited in doing all my activities.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to now fast forward it, and we're going to now be talking to Amanda. Let's say it's 12 months down the line. Amanda, I really wanted to catch up with you and see kind of where you were at with your injuries and your treatment. It's been, I think, 12 or 13 months now that you've been treating. Are you still going to physical therapy? Is there any possibility the doctor is considering surgery or anything like that?
Yes, now they're considering surgery because my pain has stayed the same, even through physical therapy.
Okay, and have you scheduled that surgery yet?
Yes.
Okay, and that surgery, is that arthroscopic surgery?
Yes.
Okay, and so it's important, folks, at this point where my client's now telling me that they're going to have surgery, again, I have to be watching out. I have to be looking to see how the injury has progressed, whether my client has gotten better, whether they're still going for treatment. And what we're going to do down the line is after, if Amanda does get the surgery, when we have a better idea now is, okay, what is going on? What is the result of that? Let's say Amanda, and there are people that say, you know what, I didn't need the surgery. It was successful through conservative treatment. So when we look at cases in terms of value, what a case is worth is oftentimes dependent upon is, does a person have to have surgical intervention? Do they not?
Right.
Do they go through conservative treatment? Does it make it better? Does it not make it better? Are they limited in their job? Are they now not able to do, let's say they had a physical job and they can't lift with that arm. They can't move that arm. Of course, using, if Amanda was a pitcher for the New York Yankees and the New York Mets, and she wasn't able to pitch anymore, well, you can imagine the value of that case. You'd have an economic loss that would be astronomical, right? So every case is different. And so when we say every case is different and why we have to hold off, we just try to give you a little bit of an example of that as to what would have happened when Amanda came in on day one. And I would have said to Amanda, okay, your case is worth X number of dollars. Well, really, how could I have done that? I didn't know she was going to have surgery. I didn't know that she was going to be treating for a year and still not getting better. I didn't know that it was going to limit her in a lot of her activities. So every person is different. So that's the reason when we tell you that we can't and will not tell you on day one, this is what it's worth. We can tell if it's a fracture, if it's considered a serious injury, or if there's death, God forbid, or if there's severe disfigurement, or if there's a loss of a fetus. By definition, that's a serious injury. But most of the injuries don't fall in that category.
Right. Okay,
so that's the way we do it. And so when you watch those commercials and the commercials want to make it like it's some mystery, it's only a mystery from the standpoint of we don't know where it's going to go. But it's not a mystery in terms of trying to evaluate and how we do that.
Right.
And the right way to do it. And we do it that way. And there are other great firms out there that do it that way too. But they don't do it on day one. They never do it on day one. And anybody's going to do that because somehow they're going to convince you that they know what the case is worth and this somehow you're going to go to them. My advice to you is anybody does that, run the other way.
Right. And I think about it, if I came in and you said my case is worth such and such, and I'm like, all right, let's settle it right away. And then a year later I have surgery, that puts me at a disadvantage. Obviously, I can't reopen that. That's exactly right. So you need to really have patience. You need to evaluate it right. You need to look at everything. And there's other factors we'll go into on another show, and we'll continue to do that because it's the question that oftentimes is asked, how do we know we're at the right place? When do we know we're at the right place? So each human is treated as a different human. Each human is treated as a person who's been hurt, that has their own individual value and their own individual pain. So fortunately today, what we're going to do is we're going to have on a show one of our great guests, Dr. Tom O'Brien, who's an osteopath. We've had him on, I think, once before. Yes. And Dr. O'Brien really is one of those treating doctors, and I have to, again, recognize you for it. Any one of my clients that have come from having treated at his office. And so I ask them, well, who's your doctor? And they say, well, Dr. Tom O'Brien. And I'm like, well, what do you think of him? Oh, man, he's the best. He's the best. They just had somebody literally 2 days ago, Dr. O'Brien, who came in and said that you take the time and you really do care about people. So I think it's important that we do distinguish that there are doctors that do something extra special, okay? And there's a lot of good doctors out there, but there are only a few really, really special ones. And you are one of those.
Thank you.
So we're really glad to have you on the show. What I wanted to do today, Amanda and I were talking to the audience today about sort of evaluating knee injury cases, shoulder injury cases. We actually just did a shoulder injury one, and from the beginning of how we're looking at it, okay? But if we could do it with you, okay, if we could do it now from the patient standpoint, doctor-patient. So here it is, Amanda. She was in an accident, and Amanda now is coming to Dr. Tom O'Brien. And we're going to do it on the other side because we're running out of time on this side of the show. And we're going to start from there. And we're going to have her come in, and you could kind of do what you would do in terms of what you would ask her. Okay, what kind of an intake sheet she might fill out. What are the things that she should make sure that she discloses to you? What are the things that you want to know about? Because I think it's important, right? This is about people. We're not about blocks of wood. We're about people, and every human is different, right? And I think it's important that that's the way they're treated. They're treated that way by their attorney, but they're also treated that way, more importantly, by their doctor. So we will be back on the other side with the great Dr. Tom O'Brien. So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back from the commercial break. Glad to be back here with you. If you're just joining us, this is personal injury attorney Ken Auerbach. You're on our program from No Fault of Your Own. Have my trusty sidekick, my great co-host, and my associate Amanda Spinner. We are live, and we're exploring some of the most important issues in personal injuries caused by accidents. If you call into the studio right now, it's 631-451-1039. I'd be glad to answer any questions about personal injury. And if you do call in, you'll get what, Amanda?
You will get a From No Fault of Your Own t-shirt.
So love to give you one of those. Love to talk to you. Love to find out about it. We do get clients calling us all the time off the radio, oftentimes after we're off the program. Had one on last week. We had that gentleman on last week who represented on that very serious case, actually, and we were able to resolve that case from which really that was good. I was really glad to help him because he had been out of work for several months, probably about 5 months.
Yes.
And if you or someone you care about has been injured as a direct result of someone else's negligence, please contact us at myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. It's myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. It would be our privilege to fight to get you justice. All of our consultations on personal injury cases are free if you do retain us, and we take the case. They're all on a contingency. It doesn't cost you anything, a personal injury case, if we are successful, or not, I should say not successful. So there's no risk to you, and we will lay out expenses, and if we're not successful, you don't pay us those back either. Listen to our program every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. also as we explore these issues. Our consultations, by the way, will come to you. We'll come to your home. We will come to a medical facility if you need us to go there. We will see you after hours. Just because you're able to work does not mean you don't have a serious injury. I have a lot of clients that fight through it, and they fight and do the best they can, but are injured very seriously, and we're able to help them in that event also. So we are back here with Dr. Tom O'Brien. He's an osteopath. Dr. O'Brien, we've had you on before, but could you just tell our listening audience what an osteopath does?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me as a guest on your show. I am a osteopathic physician, so I'm a residency-trained osteopathic physician. And that means I went to medical school, and then I did a residency in family medicine. But what is an osteopath? An osteopath is a medical doctor, and I have the ability to manipulate, or what we're more familiar with is adjusting. So I am what we consider is the only complete physician. I can prescribe medications, I can do minor surgery, as well as adjust, or what we call manipulate.
So what I'd like to do on this show is if we could sort of hone down a little bit, because I represent a lot of people that have shoulder injuries and knee injuries. And what I did on the first part of the show is we used Amanda, and she was a great client, and we were going through a process, and Amanda came in on day one, and we started with that, and then we went a few months into that, and then we went into a year, and Amanda's actually at the stage now where, as we were questioning her, is that she was recommended for surgery, and of course we're doing that. We're using just her obviously today as an example of what many of our clients really go through and the process they go through. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to sort of let Amanda now be the patient.
Right.
Okay? And be the patient. Obviously, you're the doctor here. And Amanda's now coming into your office, She was just at the hospital a few weeks ago, and she's told follow up with a great doctor. In this case, she decided that she was going to follow up with you, Dr. Thomas O'Brien, in osteopathic medicine. And so, Amanda, what would like you to do is, you're walking into the doctor's office here, Dr. Tom. What would be the first thing she'd have to do? She'd have to fill out a form or something?
Yes. Well, we would have her fill out a no-fault NF2 or NF3 form. Also, a form for the benefits. Okay. Some of these forms you already filled out since you went to a hospital, because these are standard forms. Typically, when you set up an appointment with me, I would ask you to bring in any documentation that you have from the hospital, any MRI, CT, any studies that were performed, because that would make my job a lot easier when I'm doing a thorough history and physical.
Okay.
So you brought those forms in for me?
I brought you x-rays.
X-rays. Okay, good.
I brought you x-rays.
So then what I would do is it's the standard exam. First, before anything, we'd get to know me. I'd spend a good at least 5 minutes of just an introduction so you feel comfortable. This is important so I can let the patient settle down so you feel comfortable. My house is your house, and I tell my patients I want to feel comfortable. My patients are family. Very important so you feel comfortable with me and being in my presence. A lot of times when you don't feel comfortable, you're gonna hold back information. I want you to feel comfortable and be able to explain in detail, because a lot of times information is held back because they're afraid to give those details. And it's important for me because I have to document how you're feeling, because that's going to support your case in that aspect, but also how I'm going to treat you and how aggressive I need to be. So I would ask you typical questions: past medical history, past surgical history. Do you have any allergies to medications, just in case I needed to prescribe medication? And then any surgical history, and then we'd go into I would perform a thorough history and physical.
Now, Dr. O'Brien, you would ask her also, I assume on the original questionnaire is what brings you here?
That's correct, yes. So on the original form, you're going to actually document and write down what transpired. What was the incident? Where did it occur? What date? It's important. Is there a past medical history with a similar injury?
Right.
Also, I mean, you're going to detail, the day, the time, were you driving or not, were you wearing a seatbelt or not, in this case, no fault, were you the driver or the passenger, was there any head injuries? And also, I would ask these exams as well, because I'm going to document that as well in my report.
So, in this case, Amanda, Dr. O'Brien obviously asked you about your history. You wrote this down. And now he's going to do his exam. How did your accident happen?
I was driving, and I was stopped at a light, and I was rear-ended. Okay.
So, Dr. O'Brien, that's the information that this patient gave you. Does it make a difference, doctor, when you're doing the examination, to know sort of the mechanism of what occurred?
Absolutely, because I know where to look. Other questions I want to ask, again, do you have a past medical history with head and neck injuries?
No.
Okay. And then I want to know, was there any head trauma?
I didn't hit my head, but I felt like a whiplash.
Yes. Acceleration, deacceleration injury.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to ask this, was there any change in vision or changes in senses?
No.
Okay. Any headaches?
Yes.
Okay. So from there, then I'm already thinking, all right, do I get a neurologist that specializes in headaches on board, because I want to do a nice neurological workup. I will do a neurological workup, but then I would like to have as a backup to support my findings and do a more thorough job, because that's what they trained in, and I'll have a neurologist on board.
So let me ask you this question, Doc, and it's really interesting that you do it, because I always think it's great that when a doctor such as yourself doesn't sort of just focus in on just one place. Now, in your case, you're an osteopath. So an osteopath really does, right, have reviews all body symptoms and systems, right?
Right.
But sometimes a person will go to a certain type of discipline, and let's say they're not a discipline for neurology, okay? And now this person comes in, she's complaining of headaches, and they ask her, well, did you have any tests in the hospital? Well, they did a CAT scan, and the CAT scan was negative. And right then and there, I've seen it where they just stop, and they stop looking at, is it possible she has some type of head situation going on, because obviously the CAT scan was negative, and we know, and everybody you should know, that simply because a CAT scan's negative doesn't mean you can't have a neurologic injury to the brain, because a CAT scan is taking pictures of the nerves.
Right.
So So I think it's important. I think you gave us a really good example of why it's important the way you're doing a thorough examination of a client, and you're listening to them and you're not afraid, as you just said, hey, if this person has to go out to a different discipline, that's okay. That may not be my area, but we're looking at the patient as a whole, right?
Absolutely. I always say you're going to look, listen, and feel. You look at the patient, you listen to what they're saying, you feel them both physically and emotionally because they're telling a story. And if you're tuning out and focusing, and when you go to a specialist, they're going to be very focused, and they're going to miss a large part of the picture because they're looking at one little piece. If you look at my exams, they're extremely thorough, and I'm documenting a thorough routine physical exam, and then I go into a structural exam, which will include range of motion testing, and then I come to a conclusion and saying, this is our treatment plan, and I want to bring a holistic approach, bring in other disciplines.
That's really important, Amanda, right? Because sometimes we've seen it where a person comes, they're treating with a doctor, they had these symptoms, and you're sitting there, we're lawyers, we're not doctors.
Right.
And the person's having an issue with it and nobody's paid attention to it. And so I love Dr. O'Brien's approach, not to be afraid to refer out to somebody if necessary. So we're going to talk to Dr. O'Brien on the other side as we pick this up. It's having a lot of fun here.
Yes.
Well, welcome back to our program. If you're just joining us, this is personal injury attorney Ken Auerbach. You're on our program from No Fault of Your Own with my wonderful associate, Amanda Spinner here, and my co-host, of course. And we're exploring some of the most important issues in personal injuries caused by accidents. And if you or someone you care about has been injured as a direct result of someone else's negligence, please give us a call. Contact us at 631-654-4900 or get us on the web at myinjuryli.com. That's 631-654-4900 or on the web at myinjuryli.com. It'd be our privilege to fight to get you justice. All of our consultations on personal injury cases are free. And if we are successful, you don't pay. I'm sorry. If we take your case, and even if we're not successful, it doesn't cost you anything, but we fight real hard to try to be successful, and fortunately, we oftentimes are, and most of the times we are. So that's a good thing, but we can only make you a promise that we will fight really, really hard to get you justice, and you are an individual. We don't look at you as another person who came in. Every person is different, and you are important to us and will be important to us. Please listen to our program every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. as we explore these issues. So, Amanda, we're back. Okay, now, what's great today, too, by the way, right? We have Dana on the show today.
Shout out to Dana. She'll be here every week now.
I know. So Dana is actually doing our video for our podcast.
Yes.
And you'll also, on the podcast, you'll get to see this up, and you'll get to see Dr. Tom O'Brien. And Dr. Tom O'Brien, if you take a look, absolutely looks like... looks like a person, one of my favorite comedians of all time. Robin Williams, actually, and I had you on the show the last time, Doc, and I just kept on looking, and Amanda's like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, you don't see it? She's like, what are you talking about? I said, you don't see it? Okay. And now you can't help it.
And
right?
Dr. Tom actually also has a show on this station.
He does.
And when can everyone listen to that?
Yes, on Wednesday at 4 p.m.
Awesome.
So, Doc, tell us for people that want to get a hold of you and see you, and he's a great doctor, really. I'm telling you, you're going to call me up and thank me. But if someone is involved, has an accident, right, and are injured,
yes.
You do take no-fault cases, am I correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And also, I know you treat people, of course, that are not involved in accidents also as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if somebody wants to contact you and maybe get your autograph, the Robin Williams autograph, but no, all kidding aside, if someone wants to contact you and they've been injured or they're not feeling well, how do they get a hold of you?
Yes, they can go to drtomio.com, drtomio.com, or they can call my office at 631-980-8200.
Give it that phone number one more time, please.
631-980-8200.
Okay, so we're so glad that you're back with us. What we are going to do is let's continue on now, Doc. Mm-hmm. And so now Amanda has come to your office. You've done the original consultation, taken a history for her. She's filled out the documents that she has to fill out. And then I think you said that you would do an examination. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I do a traditional examination, and this is something that's even lacking in a traditional practice. So a lot of my patients say, well, I've never had a physical like this. I'm looking in their eyes. I'm looking for changes in their eyes. I'm even listening to their carotid arteries. I want to see if there's any carotid bruits. Now, if you had head trauma, we could have changes in the arterial flow. I'm going to be able to pick that up because I'm listening. After I do a traditional examination, I do an osteopathic structural exam. So I'm looking for changes in the actual skeletal system there. And then I'm able to diagnose what we call somatic dysfunctions, and that's changes, rotations in the cervical spine, either anterior or posterior slippages, rotations to the right or left, and where they have pain. And I also test to see if they have any radicular symptoms, meaning pain that radiates down into their upper or lower extremities. And that gives me an idea if there's disc, cervical or lumbar disc degenerative diseases or bulges or herniations.
So let's talk about Amanda came, and her main problem is in her shoulder.
Yes.
All right. And it's been bothering her since the accident. And she's having significant issues with it. They did an x-ray at the hospital. They didn't do an MRI or anything like that. So if she came in and she was complaining of severe problems in her shoulder, what questions would you ask? What kind of exam would you do? And then where do you go from there?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing is I want to pinpoint where the pain is, okay? And then what pain level? Where's your threshold, okay? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1, you wouldn't be here. 10 would be like a knife stabbing you. And then what I want you to do is differentiate the pain, or define the pain. Is it dull or achy, or is it a combination of both? Does the pain radiate? Because then I'm saying, is it the shoulder or is it up in the cervical spine that's radiating? Because I can look at the shoulder and say, okay, because of dermatomes, what level in the cervical spine? From there, I'm going to do a range of motion testing, and I'm going to have a passive and active range of motion testing, so I know the degree of movement, okay? And that gets documented in my reports. Then I do a strength testing because I want to see if there's weakness. Is there a tear, or is there a strain or sprain? I don't know, so I have to test your strength and range of motion so I have an idea of what's going on. Sometimes you feel a pathology or pain in your shoulder, and it's not in your pain. It's actually in your thoracic spine, in between your shoulder blades, and that's what's causing the pain. So I'll do an exam there, what we call an osteopathic structural exam. And then from there, we set up a treatment plan. But I work together with the patient. Together as a team, we come up with a program that will work well for them. So
when you do this first exam, obviously she comes in, she's had an x-ray. The x-ray is negative, which wouldn't be surprising because obviously if there's a tear in the shoulder of soft tissue, an x-ray is not going to show that, right?
That's correct.
So now the person comes to you, you've done this exam, you see that there's some type of issues with range of motion, and there's some limitation in her range of motion, and she has a pain scale of, let's say she's at a 6 or 7,
right.
Okay? In that situation, you set up a plan. Now, the plan could include what type of treatment, and
right.
How does that go?
Right. Well, it all depends on, again, my findings. Are we going to be conservative, or are we going to be real aggressive? If the symptoms are more mild and the patient's able to tolerate the range of motion testing, then I would start off with just a conservative approach where I'm going to start osteopathic manipulation. And I'll see how things are going over a couple of weeks to a month and see if there's any improvement. If there's no improvement and it's still complaining of pain, then we're going to go into, so let's say, MRI. And then depending on the findings, I might have to bring an orthopedic surgeon on board, because if I see either is there tears, if there's tears, is there a partial tear or a complete tear? Well, that's beyond my scope of practice. Orthopedics needs to be on board. If there's more neurological, no tears, but there's neurological, I'm going to refer to neurology and say, what can we do together and work as a team? if it's a lot of pain, extreme pain, and they are too acute, okay, meaning too hot or too acute, then I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive, and I might say, okay, let's start off with an MRI, not 4 weeks, but maybe a week or right off the bat. And this is, again, together we come up with this plan, and because my patients are family, so I want them part of the decision making. Because they become more compliant, they understand the treatment and why I'm doing this, because that's the educational component. I always say anyone can prescribe the pill, but it's the education behind it where the patients become compliant, and we get much better outcome when the patients understand the treatments. And this is why I'm treating this way.
See, I think this is great, like this show, because in this show, what you're seeing, like, I'm the attorney now, right? What Dr. O'Brien is doing right now, I have nothing to do with. I have no effect on that whatsoever, okay? Dr. O'Brien, I've told my client, you got to follow up with your medical treatment because I want you to get better. So Dr. O'Brien is doing everything he has to make the patient get better. The patient's being compliant. The patient's going to the doctor's office. The doctor is trying to make that client get better. The doctor's also identifying it and reporting it and recording it. Mm-hmm. I'm here, I'm just sitting back. I'm waiting to see how hurt my person is. Are they getting better? Are they not getting better? But also getting that information. So you see how the medical part of it and the legal part, how they start to meet. And I think it's important because most people don't realize that, okay? So listen, we don't have much time to go, but it's great to have you. Got to have you back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? We got to have you back because we've never done a show quite like this,
right.
But I think it's important because it shows people what the whole thing looks like.
Right.
Okay, it's not just about a lawsuit, and I tell people it's about getting better first, and then we take that information and we try to use it to get you feeling justly compensated. Have a great week.